After 4 transformative years, she discovers an incredible surprise in a cafe with her daughter. The cafe was alive with laughter and warmth, a comforting cocoon amid the bustle of Sarah's life. For the past 4 years, she had dedicated every waking moment to reclaiming her existence after a tumultuous divorce. As a single mother, Sarah balanced the rigors of nursing classes with the aspirations of her intelligent daughter, Mia, whose dreams of Yale cast a hopeful glow on their modest existence. Over steaming cups of coffee and homemade pastries, their bond flourished, yet shadows of the past loomed close. On a breezy afternoon, while Mia was absorbed in her latest literary adventure, Sarah's ears perked up at a conversation 2 patrons held nearby. They spoke her father's name, a name laced with resentment and longing. Waves of unfamiliar emotions engulfed her, confusion seeped into the crevices of the carefully constructed walls she had erected. Memories, once safely tucked away, surged forth like a stampede. He was a businessman, successful and aloof, a specter that haunted her childhood. The thought stung, rekindling betrayal deep within her heart. She had spent years triumphing over his indifference, but now uncertainty clawed at her resolve. This man, had he changed, or would he be yet another disappointment? Mia's intuition flickered to life as she noticed the tautness in her mother's expression. "Mom, if he's still out there, you deserve answers," she urged, her youthful determination shining like a beacon. But would facing the ghost of her past nourish her broken spirit or unravel the delicate life she had stitched together? For Sarah, the weight of her upbringing cast long shadows over her decisions. She had built a new existence defined by her and Mia's love, but a whisper of fear, the fear of judgment, of rejection, snaked around her heart, tightening with every thought of confrontation. The anticipation gnawed at her as Sarah walked back into the cafe, Mia's hand clutching hers like a lifeline. They settled into their usual table, the aroma of coffee swirling around them like an embrace. As she mentally prepared to leap into confronting her father and the emotional scars he left, her focus drifted to the man at the next table. He was engrossed in conversation, and there was something unsettlingly familiar in his features, a reflection of her past that sent chills racing down her spine. Could this stranger be a link to the man she desperately yearned for? The realization struck her like a thunderclap, unearthing a family secret she never anticipated. Reality twisted and writhed in front of her, pulling her deeper into uncertainty. Hope fought with gnawing trepidation, leaving her heart in a vice grip. Would she embrace this unexpected connection, or would it fracture the bond she cherished with Mia? Before she could dive deeper into her spiraling thoughts, a jarring interruption echoed into the cafe, demanding her attention. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." The cafe door swung open, and Sarah's heart pounded, nerves fraying under the weight of this moment. The uncertainty was electric. She felt suspended between past and present, between possibility and fear. A new chapter hovered, just out of reach, and the choice before her could shatter or solidify everything she held dear. The atmosphere in the cafe shifted as the door swung open, allowing a gust of wind to sweep in, unsettling the carefully curated world Sarah had built. Mia continued to read, unaware of the tension beating on Sarah's brow. The presence of the stranger lingered, intertwining with the memory of her father like a ghostly wisp, refusing to be ignored. In that moment, Sarah was left at the precipice of decision. Could she confront the truth she had evaded all these years? Her father, with all his past indiscretions, seemed mere paces away. Sarah knew that digging into her past risked disturbing the fragile equilibrium of her current life. She had sacrificed so much to create a stable home for Mia, to ensure she had a better foundation than Sarah did. Yet, the relentless whisper of curiosity clawed at her. Answers awaited, but at what cost? Mia looked up from her book, her perceptive eyes searching her mother's face. "Mom, you seem distant." "If you want to talk about it, I'm here," she said quietly. The connection they shared was rooted deeply in understanding. Mia had become an unexpected ally, her youthful wisdom offering clarity amidst the chaos of Sarah's thoughts. With a deliberate breath, Sarah grasped the moment. "Mia, it's just I overheard something earlier, and it's brought back memories that I thought I had buried." "Memories can hurt, but they can also help us grow," Mia replied, her voice steady. "What if it's time you explored them? Facing whatever it is could bring peace." A wave of emotion coursed through Sarah. It wasn't lost on her that Mia was asking her to step away from the shadows of her past and toward the possibilities of healing. The disappointment of her father's absence had shaped her, but maybe, just maybe, she could rewrite that narrative. Determined, Sarah stood and approached the man who resembled her father. She felt her heart pounding, each beat echoing her apprehension, yet an unexpected surge of courage flickered to life. Perhaps this man held answers or at least a part of the truth she had so desperately sought. As she neared, her resolve hardened. It was time to reclaim the pieces of herself that had long been fragmented. "Excuse me," Sarah began, her voice barely above a whisper. But she could barely contain the storm of emotions brewing inside. The man's gaze lifted, his expressions shifting from curiosity to recognition. "Sarah?" he asked, eyes widening. There was a haunting familiarity in his voice that struck her to the core. The remnants of her childhood surged through her veins, memories twisted with feelings of abandonment. Their eyes locked, and for a moment, the café dissolved around them. Sarah's heart raced. She stood at the edge of a confrontation, a possibility of reconciliation or renewed hurt. What did it mean for her? Could facing this person reshape her future or merely dredge up the past? "Why are you here?" Sarah's voice trembled, a mix of accusation and vulnerability that betrayed the years of unresolved pain. He faltered, and she saw the flicker of emotions fighting behind his steely exterior. "Because I've been trying to find you," he finally responded, his voice softer now, almost pleading. The revelation hung in the air thick as fog, and for the first time in years, Sarah felt like she was grasping at threads of truth. She had come seeking answers, but what lay ahead could reshape everything she had built with Mia. The choices looming before her were monumental. Was she prepared to unearth the truth, no matter how painful? Or would she retreat back into the safety of her carefully constructed new life? In that moment, the stakes soared, and she realized, the path forward was one she could not navigate alone. She turned slightly, glancing back at Mia, who observed with wide-eyed curiosity. The evolution of Sarah's journey was about to accelerate, and she could feel it becoming more than just her own. It involved Mia, too. As Sarah weighed her next move, the realization settled in. They were both performing in a narrative that was still being written. And she needed to decide for her own sake and for Mia's what role she would choose to play. The tension wrapped around her heart as she took a decisive breath, ready to step deeper into the unknown, hoping for clarity amid the chaos. "Tell me everything," she urged, calling forth the courage to confront not only her father but the fraught journey that lay ahead. Her heart raced, the future beckoned, shimmering with the weight of possibility. Would this confrontation lead her to healing, or would it pull her into chaos once more? The answer awaited just beyond the cusp of revelation. The weight of his gaze pressed upon her, demanding recognition while evoking old scars. Sarah stood suspended in that moment, the air thick with unspoken words. She summoned all her courage, ready to peel back layers of her past that she had meticulously coated with denial. "Why now?" she questioned, pinning him with a look that could either shatter their fragile truce or ignite the power of disclosure. The café faded into an irrelevant buzz around them, coffee machines steaming and patrons gleefully conversing, oblivious to the reverberations of her internal battle. "Because I realized it's time to take responsibility," he said, his voice firm yet tinged with an underlying fear. He shifted his weight, betraying the uncertainty of a man who had once walked away from everything that mattered to him. I've changed, Sarah. It's why I'm here. Changed? The word tasted bitter on her tongue, a challenge veiling her doubt. A decade of absence rarely transformed into warmth without scars. You can't just show up after all this time and expect everything to fall back into place. His features settled into a look of regret. I didn't know how to make amends. I thought distancing myself was the right thing. With his words, years of hurt surged within her, aligning themselves with the barriers she had painstakingly erected. And now, what? You think this conversation can bridge that gap? Each syllable was charged, a declaration that she was no longer the frightened girl left stranded by a father's choices. I want to try, he said, his earnest eyes pleading for forgiveness, for an opportunity to reshape their fractured connection. Outside the small bubble of their confrontation, the café bustled with life. It felt like a distant world. Sarah stole a glance at Mia, her daughter's curiosity a gentle reminder of what was at stake. They were in this together, navigating a territory fraught with emotional landmines. Her heart twisted in both fear and determination. What legacy was she creating for Mia? Trying isn't enough. The words slipped from her mouth before she could catch herself. A wave of conviction washed over her as the reality hit. Sarah had spent years cultivating a life that could withstand the spillover of others' failings. You have to really understand what you've lost. He nodded, and his expression transformed from one of uncertainty to reluctant understanding, as though a shutter had opened, revealing the depth of his absence. I want to understand. I want to know you, he replied, each word deliberate, as though he were crafting some kind of fragile agreement with the universe. It was a proposition thick with implications, and an unsettling sense of vulnerability washed over Sarah. To invite this man back into her life felt like tearing open a wound that had almost healed. Yet, what would it mean not to face this, to walk away and continue pretending the past held no potential for reconciliation? I need to process this, she admitted, weighing each word with the delicacy it demanded. This isn't just about you showing up. It's about everything you left behind, everything I had to rebuild in your absence. I understand, he said softly, and for the first time, she saw the flicker of genuine remorse cross his face. Her mind raced, grappling with the idea of trust, of moving forward despite a tumultuous past. What if digging deeper revealed strengths she never knew she possessed? What if, together with Mia, they could reconstruct a more honest narrative, one not shadowed by absence but flushed with potential? Taking a deep breath, Sarah felt an odd mix of liberation and fear. The road ahead could lead to redemption or deeper resentment. Let us start over, she finally said, her heart thumping louder in anticipation. But this time, it's with the understanding that I will not allow my past to dictate my future. Agreed, he replied, a tentative smile breaking through the bleakness. With that fragile agreement hanging between them, the air began to shimmer with potential. The journey of transformation beckoned anew. But now came an undeniable realization: this was only the beginning. The café door swung open, and the gust of wind stirred once again, but it felt different this time, as if fresh possibilities were swirling in with the breeze. As Sarah turned to Mia, she felt the chill of uncertainty mingling with the warmth of hope. Can we really forge a new path from here? She wondered, her mind racing at what lay ahead. Behind the false security of their agreement lingered the specter of a past that could rear its head at any moment. As the future unfurled, she knew one thing: the journey toward healing would demand everything she had, courage she was still uncovering, and answers she had yet to claim. But deep within her chest, the glimmer of determination ignited. Sarah was ready to discover who she was meant to become, both for herself and for Mia. The weight of this decision suffocated her with a potent mixture of anxiety and hope. Her heart raced, echoing with the truth that sometimes, confronting the past holds the keys to a new destiny. The moment of truth was dawning, but the answers she sought were still shrouded in darkness. Would she be ready to face everything that would arise from this reconnection? The café noise began to recede as Sarah returned her focus to the present, the air thick with vulnerability and new possibilities. Mia, sensing her mother's tension, reached out and squeezed her hand. In that simple touch, there was a reminder that the weight of their history wasn't hers to bear alone. This journey, messy and uncertain, was also about teaching her daughter the truths of resilience. Yet, as thrilling as the prospect of healing felt, Sarah couldn't shake off the trepidation gnawing at her insides. Finishing the last sip of her coffee, she caught a glimpse of her reflection in the window. The face staring back appeared older, bearing shadows of the struggles she had faced. However, within those shadows glimmered a flicker of strength. She had fought her way through so much. What had she become? To explore the contours of their new agreement, Sarah realized she needed to step beyond their fragile truce. "Let us set some ground rules," she said, her tone suddenly turning serious, almost firm. The very act of establishing boundaries felt like taking back control, a crucial step for her mental landscape. "Ground rules?" he echoed, skepticism creeping into his voice, yet there was a flicker of appreciation in his eyes. "Yes. We can't just start over without clarity. I need to know what you're willing to invest in this process," she replied. After all, she was the one who had strived to build a stable life from shards of chaos. It was her choice, her responsibility to safeguard their delicate peace. He nodded, visibly considering her words. "I'm willing to commit to understanding, to rebuilding trust. I can meet with you regularly. It's not going to change overnight, but I want to show you I mean it." A nervous tremor ran through her, tempted to grasp onto that flicker of hope but also guarded against the prospect of disappointment. Could she do this without losing herself again? Yet the challenge of facing her past was less frightening than stumbling through modern motherhood without the wisdom of the past. "Let us keep talking, but we also need to take it slow. I want to share this with Mia and create a safe space for her. It can't just be about us," she began, her mind racing through all these connective threads that could either weave them together more tightly or unravel them completely. The moment she mentioned Mia, she saw a shift in his demeanor. His eyes softened, revealing the father she always wished he could become. "I want to be part of her life, not intrude. What I want is to support both of you," he said, his voice steadying into sincerity. "Support means more than just showing up. It's about accountability, sincerity, doing what you say you will," she pressed, intuition guiding her firmly. Sarah could feel the pulse of her resolve driving deeper, each beat signaling a newfound clarity about her worth. He nodded earnestly, the shadows that once obscured his face now illuminating with something akin to hope, or was it desperation? Inwardly, Sarah questioned whether she had the skills to navigate this minefield of emotions, but she also felt something else, the emerging voice of a woman who had built her own legacy, unwilling to fade back into the background. As part of her self-discovery, she vowed to keep boundaries sharp yet flexible, for herself and her daughter. With each rule they forged together, Sarah felt a consistent rhythm building between them, almost like the stirring of a team preparing for battle. "Okay, I'll commit to starting slow and honoring your rules," he said. "But what if I accidentally step out of line? Then we talk. No assumptions. Just open dialogue," she urged, the readiness to communicate becoming her linchpin. Before she could consider their conversation further, her phone buzzed, interrupting the increasingly intimate moment. A notification flashed on the screen, prompting confusion and reluctance to look. The name on the screen sent a jolt of recognition and caution through her. It was her old colleague from the publishing world, someone she thought long forgotten. "Excuse me for a moment," she said, her instincts suddenly racing with the prospect of revisiting another chapter of her past, a different one that had shaped her professionally. As she answered the call, she could feel the weight of uncertainty coiling tightly within her chest. Would this contact lead her down another pivotal path of self-discovery, or would it open old wounds she had fought so hard to heal? With unexpected questions swirling in her mind, Sarah felt the tension mount. The next few moments could redefine everything she thought she understood, not just about herself, but about the life she had meticulously crafted. As she listened, One thing became irrefutably clear: she had taken the first steps toward bridging her past with the present, but the road was far from finished. What awaited her on the other end of the line was yet another chance for transformation, one that would demand every ounce of her courage. Sarah's heart raced as she heard the familiar voice on the other end of the line. It was Lucas, her former editor, the one who had helped shape her early career but also witnessed her descent into doubt and disillusionment. The warmth in his tone was unmistakable, but a mixture of anxiety and anticipation fluttered in her stomach. "Sarah. It's been a long time," he said, genuine enthusiasm masking a hint of hesitation. "I'm reaching out because I came across your last piece. It's brilliant. Have you considered writing more? I think it's time to come back." The words hung in the air, electrifying and overwhelming. Her instincts kicked in, sending a wave of self-doubt crashing over her. Writing was a sanctuary, and yet it had also been a battleground, a domain where vulnerability often clashed with the demand for perfection. "What do you mean, come back?" she asked, her voice steady, but internally she was grappling with conflicting emotions. The lure of professional validation melded dangerously with her fears of failure. "I believe there's a resurgence in interest for the kind of work you do. Publishers are looking for personal narratives steeped in real-life experiences, something authentic." "You have that in spades," Lucas replied, his confidence lacing every word. She bit her lip, the implications swirling in her mind like autumn leaves caught in a gust. For years, she had been weaving her identity around being a mother, nurturing her daughter's growth while quietly pushing aside her own ambitions. Could she balance the scales between reclaiming her career and remaining fully present for Mia? I don't know. My life isn't what it used to be," she finally said, her voice catching slightly. "I have responsibilities now." "Of course, I understand that," Lucas replied, his tone now more cautious. "But this could be an opportunity. Sometimes stepping back into who we were is the very thing that helps us become who we're meant to be." His words struck a chord. Sarah felt the flicker of hope mix with dread, as if the universe was offering her a choice between safety and courage. She had spent years learning to prioritize her daughter's needs, often at the expense of her own. She craved to explore this new possibility, yet the weight of past disappointments taunted her. A soft tugging on her sleeve brought her back to the present. Mia was watching her, eyes wide with curiosity. Sarah realized how pivotal this moment was, not just for her, but for her daughter. Would she show Mia the importance of pursuing dreams, even amidst uncertainty? "I need to think about it," Sarah finally replied, the words both liberating and terrifying. "Maybe we can discuss this further." "Absolutely," he agreed. "Take your time, but I hope to hear from you soon." As she hung up the phone, the mix of adrenaline and doubt coursed through her like electricity. The conversation had opened a door she thought had long been closed, yet looming behind it was the fear of what stepping through would mean. Mia's small voice broke through her thoughts. "Mom, was that about a new story?" Taking a deep breath, Sarah knelt in front of her daughter, searching for the right words. "Kind of. It's about something I used to love doing." Mia's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Like when you read me those stories?" "Yes," Sarah replied, her heart swelling. "But it's also about bravery. Sometimes, we have to take risks to grow." In that moment, she wanted to embody those lessons, to show Mia that resilience meant not just surviving but thriving in the face of uncertainty. "I want you to chase your stories, Mom. They matter," Mia said. Emotion swelled within Sarah, a mix of pride, fear, and determination. She had the chance to rediscover who she was, not just as a mother but as an artist. Deciding to embrace this thread of creativity also meant she would need to navigate complex partnerships both in her personal life and in her potential return to publishing. The ground rules she had set with her ex would require constant adjustments, and perhaps even a reckoning with her own ambitions. As they left the café, Sarah sensed an undercurrent of change swirling around her like an impending storm, exciting yet unpredictable. She had opened herself up to possibilities again, but the question remained, would she have the strength to weave her past into her present without losing herself? With each step back to reality, Sarah pondered the unfolding narrative not only of her career but also of her life's new chapters. The moment her phone buzzed once again, Sarah couldn't help but wonder what challenges would accompany her decision to embrace her voice once more. As the afternoon sun carved shadows through the bustling streets, Sarah felt an insistent fire igniting within her. She was standing at the edge of a precipice, staring into the unknown. The familiar sounds of laughter and chatter faded into the background as her thoughts raced, each one a fragment of a decision she had yet to fully acknowledge. Mia, curious and innocent, tugged at her sleeve again. "Mom, are you okay?" Her concerned expression pierced through the haze of Sarah's contemplation. "I'm good, sweetheart. Just thinking," Sarah responded, ruffling Mia's hair. But inside, a barrage of questions echoed relentlessly. Could she rekindle her passion without sacrificing her responsibilities? Could the woman who wrote with abandon still exist alongside the mother she had become? That evening, sitting on her bed surrounded by a sea of notebooks and crumpled papers, Sarah dug deeper into her internal struggle. She recalled the moment she had first put pen to paper, the pure joy and exhilaration that had come from brazenly sharing her thoughts. Writing had been a part of her soul, an expression that transcended the mundane. But life had woven strands of doubt around that spirit. She began thumbing through her old journals, searching for inspiration. Each page turned was a vicarious journey into dreams once chased. Lines about hope, pain, love, and loss filled her with both nostalgia and urgency. All those unfinished stories stared back at her, waiting patiently. "It's time," she whispered resolutely, but apprehension lingered, casting shadows over her newfound conviction. The following days unfolded with an invigorating yet unnerving rhythm. Each morning, while Mia was occupied with her routines, Sarah carved out time to write. Some days, the words flowed easily, but on others, they seemed to drown in a tide of insecurities. What if her stories weren't relevant? What if she faced rejection again? She battled not just with external expectations, but her internal dialogue, the critic that whispered, "You're just a mother now." One afternoon, conflict began to manifest in more tangible ways. While reviewing her drafts, Sarah received a text from her ex, asking to adjust their co-parenting schedule. A simple request, yet it triggered a swell of frustration. Committing to her writing meant redistributing her time that had already been arranged meticulously for Mia. "Can't he understand?" she muttered, feeling a twinge of resentment bubble up. It was an all too familiar dance of negotiation, treading between her desires and obligations. The next day, armed with a resolve to communicate effectively, Sarah broached the subject with her ex. A calm conversation quickly escalated as they navigated their established boundaries and feelings. "This is important for me," she stated firmly, surprising both herself and him. The fear of rejection diminished, replaced by a steely determination to own her ambitions. "Fine, as long as you're going to be present for Mia," was his hesitant reply. While the approval felt faint, it was still a step toward balancing the scales. Yet, when she returned home, uncertainty seeped into her mind. Had she crossed an invisible boundary? Was she putting her interests first at the expense of her daughter's needs? Each thought twisted and turned like a seaweed caught in a current. That evening, as she tucked Mia into bed, the little girl whispered, "Mom, I believe in your stories." Sarah smiled, tears burning her eyes. It was a reminder that she wasn't just pursuing her dreams for herself but to create a legacy of bravery for Mia. She wanted her daughter to understand the significance of following one's passions, even in the face of uncertainty. The next morning, inspiration struck like lightning as Sarah sat before her laptop. She crafted a story that was contemporary yet deeply personal, a narrative intertwining her past struggles and newfound resolve. With every keystroke, she felt herself breaking free from the chains of self-doubt. But just as she began to feel liberated, her phone chimed with another message. drawing her back. This time, it was Lucas, suggesting they meet to discuss her future in writing. A knot of anxiety tightened in her chest. Was she truly ready for this confrontation with her past career? With trembling hands, Sarah typed back, when and where. The unexpected challenge of bridging her old world with her present reality loomed ahead. As she pressed send, she understood at that moment this would not be just a meeting. It would be her reckoning. And somewhere within her, anticipation coiled tightly, whispering, the time had come to face everything she had been avoiding. The day of the meeting dawned with a crisp clarity that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Sarah paced her small kitchen, the scent of brewed coffee mingling with the restless thoughts spiraling through her mind. Everything was a whirlwind: the stories she had begun to revive, the tension of needing to negotiate her creative space in what seemed to be an endless series of demands, and now, confronting Lucas. She glanced at the clock. She had just enough time to squeeze in a few more words. Settling at her laptop, she typed fervently, losing herself in the worlds she was creating. For a fleeting moment, doubt faded, a taste of what fulfillment felt like. But just as quickly as it had come, the knot in her stomach tightened again. What if Lucas saw her attempts as inadequate? What if he dismissed her dreams yet again, just like before? Resolutely, she shut the laptop, the screen flickering dark, and took a deep breath. Today would be different. She would articulate her aspirations honestly, without fear or hesitation. Arriving at the café, she noticed the same bohemian vibe that had once inspired her. The walls were adorned with murals, and the air hummed with the energy of creativity. But also, it was filled with the ghosts of her past, echoes of experiences where she had questioned her worth in the literary world. Mia sat at the table, drawing on her notepad, oblivious to the emotional upheaval within Sarah. Her daughter looked up and smiled, illuminating the shadows that swirled in Sarah's mind. "Are you nervous, Mom?" Sarah shook her head, mustering a smile. "Just excited." The words felt foreign but empowering. When Lucas entered, his demeanor exuded casual confidence. They exchanged pleasantries, but the unease lingered like a stubborn fog. As they settled in, Sarah deflected the small talk, ready to dive in. "I've started writing again," she declared, defiant. Lucas raised an eyebrow, intrigued but skeptical. "Really? That's great, but—" "It's more than just great," she interrupted. "I've been working on stories that connect with who I am, what I've experienced." Her pulse quickened as she saw his posture shift slightly. She was no longer seeking validation, she was asserting her identity. "Are you looking for feedback? Or something else?" "Actually, I want to share my work," she said, firmness replacing hesitation. "I want to explore potential opportunities. I need this for me, but also for Mia." His gaze, once skeptical, became contemplative as she continued. "This is about teaching her that passion and professionalism can coexist. I want her to see that taking risks is worth it." She watched as the surprise flickered across his features. There was no denying he had underestimated her potential, and that realization ignited something within her. Over the next hour, Sarah spoke candidly about her writing journey. Lucas took notes and interjected at intervals, his tone shifting to one of earnest interest. The more she talked, the more the initial walls began to dissolve. Yet, a flicker of discomfort remained as the conversation veered towards feedback that was decidedly critical. "You've always had talent, but your focus now is different. Are you ready for it?" Though the question stung, it also ignited her defenses. "I am not the same woman I was before. I've grown in ways you can't see." The tension between them crackled, reminiscent of old dynamics, but now laced with an underlying respect. Lucas nodded slowly, his demeanor softening. "All right, I'm willing to take a look at what you've written." As they wrapped up, Sarah felt a rush of relief and disbelief merging into one. She had faced her fears, stepped out of the shadows, and carved a pathway forward, not only for herself but for Mia as well. Back at home, she shared the day's events with her daughter, who listened wide-eyed. "Does this mean you're going to be a published author, Mom?" "Maybe," Sarah replied, her heart swelling. "But what's more important is that I'm following a dream." Mia beamed. That simple smile clouded Sarah's mind with certainty. Just as Sarah began to relax. In the serenity of that moment, her phone buzzed with another notification. A blog publisher had viewed her submissions. The familiar thrill coursed through her veins, but with it came a pulse of anxiety. She was on the precipice of more than just a meeting, she was poised on the edge of something potentially transformative. What if she was ready for a chance to share her voice with the world? With a blend of anticipation and apprehension, Sarah stared at her phone. The notification from the blog publisher wasn't just another ordinary update, it was the pivotal moment she'd ignited with her recent burst of confidence. She had always treated such events with cautious optimism, but now, a new fire stirred within her. It wasn't just about acceptance or publication, it was the validation of her voice, her stories knocking gently at the door of the literary world, craving a chance to be heard. But along with that thrill came a gnawing anxiety. What if her work didn't resonate? What if she was yet again met with indifference? She shook off those dark thoughts. Today, she wouldn't succumb to doubt. Today, she would embrace her growth. After spending the evening drafting a response to the publisher, attempting to capture her excitement without overwhelming them, Sarah turned to Mia, who was curled up on the couch, lost in a new book. "Mia, can we talk about my writing?" Mia looked up, wide-eyed and curious. "Is it about that thing you wrote?" "Yes, exactly. I've submitted a few pieces to a blog, and they looked at my work. Are you going to read it to me?" Mia asked eagerly, setting her book aside. Sarah hesitated. The fears that had dogged her for years resurfaced. "You might not like it," she warned. "Why wouldn't I? You're my mom, your words are awesome." That childlike faith in her mom's abilities jolted Sarah with a much-needed boost. Maybe it was time to share not just the rejection she had faced but also the struggles that shaped her writing. "Okay, I'll read you a draft." Gathering a selection of her short stories, each deeply stitched with experiences and feelings, she began reading. As her words filled the air, she watched Mia's expressions shift as joy, sorrow, and excitement danced across her daughter's face. "Mom, you have to send these for real. They're so cool." The energy in the room shifted. In Mia's eyes sparkled the mixture of admiration and encouragement that reminded Sarah of her evolution from writer to a storyteller, someone who inspired through vulnerability and passion. With the encouragement of her daughter still echoing in her mind, Sarah returned to her laptop. Lighting up the screen, she saw the earlier message tugging at her attention. With newfound resolve, she began crafting her reply to the publisher, blending enthusiasm with professionalism. She wanted them to see not only her work but the fire ignited within her. However, just as she pressed send, a sudden reminder buzzed her phone. Lucas had sent a message. "I've thought about what you shared today. Can we meet again? I have some ideas." A mix of trepidation and excitement washed over her. The potential for collaboration, validation, and future opportunities hung in the balance. Would he champion her work and help elevate her voice in the writing community? Her heart raced at the prospect. In a mere breath, she found herself facing another choice, one that could shape her trajectory. If she met with Lucas again, would it solidify her confidence and ambition, or shift her perception of her art in ways she wasn't ready for? Sudden flashes of the past rattled in her mind, previous discouragements, doubts, and the shadows of rejection looming larger than life. But paired with these memories was a fierce new desire to maximize her potential. With a determined nod, she drafted a reply, accepting Lucas's invitation. This was no longer about fearing his judgment, she was inviting new perspectives into her process. As she pressed send, another notification buzzed through. It was something new from the blog publisher, a request for a follow-up. Not just for an update on her work, but for an interview. The weight of these moments collided into one, the fusion of fear and opportunity, the luminous crossroads of her fledgling author journey. With that flicker of possibility before her, the stakes soared higher than ever. What might they ask that could push her even further into the realm of her potential? The morning sun crept through the kitchen window, setting the room aglow and illuminating the scattered notes and drafts that had become part of Sarah's life. The air buzzed with the anticipation of possibility, but her mind wrestled with the weight of the unknown. Accepting Lucas's invitation was a choice she made in a moment of courage, yet the mere thought of their upcoming meeting ignited both excitement and dread. She poured herself a cup of coffee, its rich aroma attempting to ground her. However, beneath the caffeine-induced warmth, her anxiety churned. As she sipped, doubts whispered in the corners of her mind. Would he help refine her ideas, or would he critique them in a way she wasn't ready for? Over the years, she had spent countless hours honing her craft, yet the fear of exposure lingered. Sharing her work meant risking her creative sanctuary. She shook her head. No, this was about evolution. Art demanded vulnerability. Stepping outside her comfort zone could yield unimaginable growth. The thought energized her, and she moved to her workspace, where she decided to prepare for the meeting. Armed with her laptop and a fresh pot of determination, she drafted a list of topics to discuss with Lucas, but it took a moment for her to settle on what truly mattered: the heart of her stories and the importance of her voice. Typing out her ideas, she felt a shift within. Every word she crafted, every story she had nurtured told of her journey, the struggles of motherhood, and the relentlessness of self-doubt. This was not just about Lucas's feedback. It was about reinforcing her identity as a writer willing to explore new depths. Just as inspiration sparked and flowed, her phone chimed with a new message. It was from the blog publisher, another follow-up, requesting her thoughts on the themes and motivations behind her writing. While the request struck a nerve, it was a golden opportunity to articulate her vision, a chance to delve deeper into her craft with purpose. She hesitated momentarily, contemplating her response. What could she share that would reflect her growth? Could she reveal her vulnerabilities without apologizing for them? She began typing, pouring her heart out, reflecting not just on the story she created, but the resolve that had driven her transformation from a timid writer to an aspiring storyteller. By the time she hit send, she felt a rush of clarity. With every line she articulated what once felt inaccessible. She was reclaiming her narrative. Empowered by this newfound realization, Sarah turned her focus back to the meeting with Lucas, and how she would utilize the opportunity. At the café, she arrived early and observed her surroundings: the eclectic mix of people engaged in animated conversations, mothers with their children losing themselves in books, and couples intently focused on their coffee dates. It inspired her. Her stories were part of this unfolding tapestry of life. She felt connected to those shared moments, igniting a new sense of purpose. Lucas finally arrived, his presence commanding while also surprisingly comfortable. The conversation opened easily, the initial nerves receding as they exchanged ideas. As they delved into her work, he asked probing questions that made her rethink familiar notions. His encouragement nudged her to explore angles she had never considered, dismantling her previous confines and allowing her to redefine what it meant to be an author. Midway through their discussion, Lucas posed a question that caught her off guard. What do you ultimately want your readers to feel when they dive into your stories? It was a simple question, but profoundly challenging. There, in the café, surrounded by the hum of an ordinary day, she realized that this was not just her passion, it was her lifeline. The answer hovered just on the edge of her thoughts, waiting to be uncovered. It was a question of identity, legacy, and authenticity. Before she could respond, a soft hush descended over their table as a weightier realization sank in. What they were unearthing in this moment together was more than just a professional exchange, it was a pivotal point in her personal evolution as a writer. As the conversation shifted, she felt a pulse of possibility turning within her. Ultimately, she understood she was going to confront not only her writing challenges but her own perception of success. What Sarah hadn't yet realized, however, was that Lucas held a key to unlocking even deeper insights that would unveil a hidden truth about her direction as a writer. As they wrapped up, he leaned forward, eyes glimmering with sincerity. "I believe you're on the brink of something unique. There's potential here that needs to be explored further." The weight of his words settled in her chest. But then he continued, "I just have one last question. Have you ever thought about exploring a theme closer to home, something that intertwines both your personal experiences and your writing?" The moment hung in the air, charged with the promise of transformation. Sarah could feel the shift within her, the uncharted territory beckoning, requiring her to step into honesty with herself. What revelation awaited her if she dared to confront that theme? In the quiet of her mind, Sarah felt a shift occur, a magnetic pull towards an intimate exploration of her own story. The warmth emanating from Lucas's gaze mirrored her own burgeoning courage. Within those words lingered the potential to anchor her narratives in her lived experiences, weaving her trials and triumphs into a tapestry rich with authenticity. "I think I have," she began, her voice a faint whisper, resonating with the energy of untold truths. "What if I wrote about the journey of reclaiming oneself, of what it means to be a mother navigating her past while walking toward an unpredictable future? This balance of vulnerability, resilience, and hope is what I want to explore." As she spoke, the words flowed with a clarity she encountered only in her dreams. Each phrase ignited the dim corners of her heart, lighting a path that had once lay shrouded in doubt. Lucas nodded, his expressions morphing. He was engaged now, reading between the lines, able to see not just the writer but the woman finding herself anew. "That's compelling," he replied, leaning back as if savoring a rare vintage. "There's depth in your commitment to authenticity, and readers will feel that connection. Your personal evolution can serve as a narrative guide." The excitement built within her, strumming a familiar chord. She had spent years weaving her skills into the fabric of her life, yet this infusion of her essence into her writing felt exhilaratingly liberating. "Every obstacle I overcame shaped my voice," Sarah reflected, her spirit buoyed by empowerment. "And as a mother, I want Mia to witness that pursuing one's passion is about embracing both the struggle and the victory." Lucas's smile deepened. "If you want to create something unique, then use your real experiences, let them fuel your truth. You're capable of turning vulnerability into strength, which is exactly what will resonate with people." With each affirmation, a sense of solid confidence began to solidify inside Sarah, weaving together her past fears with present clarity. She was no longer hiding behind the mask of anxiety or self-doubt. Instead, she was standing tall, a clear vision manifesting before her. Later, as she left the café, exhilaration coursed through Sarah. She didn't merely want to write, she wanted to conquer her inner landscape, reclaiming her narrative with intent. This commitment was a formidable step and affirmation of her worth, each stride echoing her evolution from uncertainty into purpose. Over the next few weeks, Sarah immersed herself in this new journey, constructing a story that was rooted deeply in her lived experiences, an exploration of her identity as a child of estrangement transitioning into a mother of resilience. Mia, observing her fervor, flashed a proud smile, their bond tightening around shared dreams and aspirations. Sarah dedicated mornings to writing, using every moment to pour her heart into her work. The process became cathartic, transforming her fears and aspirations into tangible words on the page. She bared her soul, dissecting moments of vulnerability and triumph, unveiling raw narratives that glimmered with authenticity. Finally, as the weeks slipped by, she felt the culmination of her efforts arriving. One afternoon, after an invigorating writing session, Sarah received a notification that would forever change her trajectory. The blog publisher had accepted her piece, expressing eagerness to feature her story. A rush of disbelief and elation collided as she read the message again. This recognition represented an achievement grounded firmly in her own growth and bravery. It wasn't just publication, it was validation of everything she had fought for, every risk she had taken to rediscover herself. Later that day, she called Lucas, her voice cracking slightly as she shared the news. "They accepted it. This validates everything we discussed. There was silence, then the sound of a genuine smile in his voice. "That's phenomenal, Sarah. It echoes your hard work and passion. But remember, this is just the beginning. Leverage this momentum to explore even deeper stories." His encouragement invigorated her, a reminder that her journey of transformation was only unfolding. In the weeks that followed, Sarah embraced not just her writing but her entire essence. It became a continuous cycle of growth. Each published piece led to more narratives bubbling beneath the surface, waiting to emerge. With Lucas as her ally, she continued to expand, delving into themes and perspectives she had previously feared were too daunting. As Sarah shared her writing journey with Mia, her daughter began to flourish in her own right, inspired by the courage radiating from her mother. Conversations shifted into shared brainstorming sessions, creating a ripple effect of aspiration rooted deeply in authenticity. Ultimately, Sarah found herself standing at the core of her identity, no longer just a mother, an author, or a woman seeking acknowledgement. She had blossomed into an empowered force, a woman who had conquered the layers of her past through deliberate choices and profound transformation. With established confidence and recognized competence, she no longer viewed her past as a burden but as a source of strength. Each story she shared lit a spark, a beacon beckoning others to step into their own truth and embrace their narratives. In the glow of her transformation, Sarah took a moment, standing before her laptop, and smiled. The journey had not merely been about publishing but about embracing who she was meant to be, a hope for future generations to carve out their paths fearlessly. Now more than ever, Sarah believed in the power of her words funneled through experience, shaped by courage, and she was determined to share her voice with the world. And so, the journey continued. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.